Hello, everyone. Oliver from NRL, in my opinion, here. It is time to give some initial reactions on three, I guess you could say, stories that broke in the NRL today. Three issues, but I am actually joined by somebody today. As you can see, it is Dane from Clarkey's column. Dane, how are you doing today?
G'day, Oliver. Thanks for having me on, guys. And yeah, let's get into this.
Yeah, no worries. So first of all, we're going to be starting off with Cory Norman to the Dragons. So something that's going to impact on field here. First of all, is this a good signing for the Dragons overall?
I would say for the 2019 season, it wasn't necessary, but obviously as a club, they are looking forward and they're looking forward towards 2020. And what I mean by that is Gareth Widdop is very likely to leave the club come 2020 if reports are true. And it does help to get a genuine 5'8" in at this stage, and that way they don't have to work on building a whole new chemistry and a whole new halves partner with Ben Hunt next year. I think that's also testified with the fact Widdop's set to shift back to fullback. The Dragons really want to establish that halves combination now and not start fresh in 2020. My biggest question from all of this is, where does this leave Matt Duffy?
Yeah, well, I put the question out on the Facebook page of where Cory Norman would sort of fit in to the Dragon squad this morning. Obviously, go give your opinion on that if you haven't already. But I saw in a couple of the comments people were saying you put Cory Norman at fullback and shift Duffy to the wing, or you put Gareth Widdop at fullback, as you said, Norman, in the halves, and shift Duffy to the wing as well, and as a replacement for Nene McDonald. So. I feel for Duffy a bit here.
I do.
Yeah,
and Duffy is a great player, but a lot and majority of his game is based off speed in the open space. He's not necessarily known for a great corner finisher. And on top of that, the Dragons have made signings in Lachlan Maranta and Jonas Pearson. They do have another couple young wingers at the club. I just don't think we'll see Duffy's best footy on the wing. I think his best footy is at fullback. But as we just said, it's very hard to include him there now Norman's in this squad.
Yeah. Overall, I think what I can say definitely about this Cory Norman move is that if in 12 months' time, or a little bit less than 12 months' time, we do find out that Gareth Widdop is headed to the Super League, this is all going to make a whole lot more sense, because at the moment, if you look at the starting lineup, at the starting spine for the Dragons, how it was, they've got a pretty good spine. Duffy at fullback, Gareth Widdop at 5'8", Ben Hunt at halfback, and Cameron McInnes as the number 9. So I definitely don't see Cory Norman fitting in there unless a couple of changes were made, like Duffy going onto the wing. I've also seen as well Cory Norman to come off the bench for a year as a utility player. I don't know if he'll necessarily want to do that after the pivotal role that he really played at Parramatta. I sort of
100% I agree. I don't think if we're talking Cory Norman having a poor year in 2018 and we're talking about him regaining his confidence and becoming the player we all know he can be, I don't think that's going to happen if he's coming off the bench. And I also think he hasn't signed an $800,000 a year deal to play off the bench.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't think the Dragons would want to be spending $800,000 a year on somebody that is going to be coming off the bench.
Especially with Ben Hunt already on 1.2 mil. I mean, we look at that in 2020, that's $2 million half combination, and that is the most in the NRL. So there's definitely a lot of pressure on Cory Norman with this signing.
Yeah, all right. So are we sort of in agreement here that if it turns out that Gareth Widdop is leaving in a year, we like the signing of Cory Norman? Possibly, though, if Gareth Widdop is to stay around, it's a bit of a questionable signing. But we'll just have to see how it all works out on the field in 2019 for the St. George Illawarra Dragons.
Definitely in agreement there.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to move on to our second topic now that we're going to react to. Shane Flanagan being deregistered by the NRL as a coach. So he's not just been sacked from the Sharks, he's been deregistered as a coach from the NRL, obviously in 2014. Spending some time, I think it was 2014 or 2014 might have been when the allegations first came out for the original peptides issue. There's a few issues that go on at Cronulla. I get a little bit jumbled up. Unfortunately. But yeah, around 2014, obviously spending a year on the sidelines, was not allowed to have, well, he was allowed to have contact with the club in some respects. However, he did breach that, and that's where we find ourselves today. First of all, what's just your sort of general thoughts on this situation?
Well, my initial reaction to this is it does seem a little unfair, but at the same time, we need to acknowledge he knew the rules, and no one but Flano made the choice to break those rules. Now, I believe he was able to contact the club in regards to player welfare, etc. But from what I understand, he was more or less managing and still coaching that team from the sideline as such. And I do feel sorry for him. And I know there seems to be inconsistencies in our game, i.e., something I don't like talking about, but what happened with Matt Lodge, what's previously happened with Russell Packer. And I can see a lot of Sharkies fans online point to those incidents and say, why are these men still allowed to play in the game? Yet our coach just sent a couple emails and he's been outlawed. But then I also have to put my logical hat on and say he broke the rules and he knew what he was doing when he broke the rules. So, look, he's actually set to appeal the process, and that's what the Sharks said in their statement today. So whilst he is deregistered at this point in time, there is a chance the NRL could overturn that. I don't think they will, though. I don't see them overturning it.
No. And just on what you were saying as well, I'd like to add on the Matt Lodge and Russell Packer issues.
Yeah.
They broke the law in general. They didn't break NRL rules. They broke the law. They were handed their punishments by the police, whatever. And then the NRL can sort of add their sort of suspensions on or whatever.
Yeah.
Shane Flanagan did not break a law. He broke an NRL rule.
Yeah.
So the NRL has more say and can hand out a more severe punishment sort of firsthand because it is an NRL issue. Those other issues, those are to do with breaking the law sort of thing. It's two different things. A quick question as well, sort of a sub-question I want to pose about this whole Shane Flanagan issue. What does this mean for his son, Kyle Flanagan, at the Sharks? I think he recently signed an extension. What's going to happen there?
Look, I've reached out to Flano today and I've just said to him, basically, stay strong, best wishes for you and your family. And I know he appreciated that, but we have to look at the fact that, well, not the fact, sorry, the rumour, I hate using that word, but we can't 100% confirm, but it is reported that his contract, has a clause in that says if his dad is not at the helm, not the head coach, he doesn't have to be there. Now, if I'm the Parramatta Eels, I'm looking right away at Kyle Flanagan and I'm saying, look, Mitch Moses, if you play good, we can re-sign you. If you don't play good, then we've got young Kyle Flanagan who doesn't have too much NRL experience, only the one game. But regardless, if he doesn't want to be at the Sharks and he does have that clause and he chooses to activate it, the Eels will be sitting there right now, just, you'd have to imagine anyway.
Yeah, and just on Kyle Flanagan as well, his resume, I guess you could say, within the old Holden Cup competition, of course, in the last season of that, he broke, I think, numerous records, like the highest point scorer in a season, and so on and so forth. So he's got, he's got a...
Well, what I was going to, sorry, before I cut you off there, I was just going to say, and he has carried that form into competitions with men. We look at him for the Newtown Jets in reserve grade. Now, I watched a fair bit of footy from the Newtown Jets last year, and I can honestly say he didn't look out of place there. He's a very good game manager despite his age. He directs his troops well, and I think he could make the transition to the NRL very seamlessly, like we saw with players like Nathan Cleary, etc.
Yeah, and also let's just say Flano was still at the Sharks. I don't necessarily think he'd get much game time, especially with them just signing Sean Johnson as well. So it could be a good career move anyway for him to move to a club like the Parramatta Eels, who are now also looking for a half because Cory Norman's just left. Another team also looking for a half is the New Zealand Warriors. Whether or not he'd want to make such a big move overseas. So young in his career, I guess you could say. That's up for debate, but I think Parramatta would probably be a better fit. I agree with you there.
I 100% agree with what you were saying there also about not potentially getting the game time he wants at the Cronulla Sharks. Now, from what I'm thinking, if there was an injury to either Townsend or Sean Johnson, he's no longer the second choice half. They're going to go with Dugan to fullback, Moylan back into the halves, and then they've got a lot more options at centre. The only thing I suppose he does have going for him if he stays at the Sharks, from what I understand, Shane was reluctant to give him a lot of game time because if he did flop early, then the fingers get pointed at him like, why are you doing this? Because it's your son, from angry fans, obviously.
Yeah. And just in case people do say something, about, let's just say, Nathan and Ivan Cleary as well. Just to clarify, of course, Ivan hasn't been there for a couple of years, and Ivan was not there when Nathan Cleary made his debut, just in case a couple of people might be a bit unsure of that, because it was around the same time. I think Nathan might have made his debut in 2016, and Ivan was gone at the end of 2015. So I just want to put out there two different points in the timeline when Nathan Cleary was actually given his chance. So that also might be another thing. Maybe first off, Ivan Cleary might have been reluctant to give Nathan game time as well, and he's blossomed, but I do understand what Shane Flanagan would have been thinking. Obviously, he's not there anymore. So it's going to be really interesting to see how Kyle Flanagan does, because he does have a fair bit of hype behind him as well.
He definitely does.
Yeah, there are. So it's not just about Shane Flanagan, him leaving. You know, there's also the other stories in that as well. And I just want to pose a question to you now, just quickly before we finish off this topic. Does this situation and Shane Flanagan being deregistered as the Cronulla Sharks coach, does this affect where you believe they'll finish in 2019, and whereabouts do you think they'll finish on the ladder in 2019?
Okay. To answer this in two parts, yes, it will affect where they finish. No, they will not fall out of the top 8. That side is too experienced and has a lot of X factor in the halves, obviously with SJ. And despite losing Holmes, they still have a relatively strong and experienced back line. We look at who's going to replace them. Jim Dymock, who's previously been looked at for an NRL coach, and also John Morris, who I believe won the competition in 2018 or 2017 with the Cronulla Sharks NYC. So obviously, you know, whilst he isn't proven at NRL level, he is showing that he has the potential to be a very good coach. Obviously, with Flano's departure, it will affect the club. There's no denying that. We can't sit here and lie. But I think the Cronulla Sharks they need to respond to a lot of adversity this season, and I see them answering to some degree, but not a top 4. I think they just scrape inside the 8. I mean, look at the adversity they've had to face. They've lost their best player in Valentine Holmes. They've lost all their sponsors and they cannot get one. They are $4 million in debt and they've just copped another $800,000 fine. I mean, their captain cops the most adversity from any man. And then on top of all that, they've just gone and had their head coach sacked. These guys cannot get in the headlines for the right reasons, and you can't help but feel a little bit for the Sharkies. Yeah,
and just quickly on who is going to coach them in 2019, I also did pose that question on my Facebook page as well. The two top answers I was getting, Jeff Tuvey and Trent Barrett. What are your quick thoughts on that?
Yeah, quick thoughts. Obviously, it's been reported a couple news places now that they obviously anticipated this may become a reality with Shane Flanagan, and they did start to outsource and look elsewhere, and Trent Barrett has been targeted as the main man. Now, of the two options you just give me, Barrett is a former player at the club. He's not as experienced coach in the NRL as Jeff Tuvey, but I believe a lot of Jeff Tuvey's core values and love and passion for the game is only for the Manly Sea Eagles. For that reason, I'm slightly more inclined to lead with Trent Barrett there if they decide to go out and sign a coach. I mean, if that's even a reality. With the amount of debt these guys are in, it might not be reality. They might just have to have Dymock and John Morris there.
Yeah. Okay, so on to our third and final sort of initial reactions today. Another man who has been deregistered by the NRL, it is Justin Pascoe, now former West Tigers CEO, with an issue in 2015, I believe, that happened with Robbie Farah. It was a contract for his post-career, I believe, sort of making him, I guess, a life member of the club, something to do with the club there. Do you want to give your thoughts on that? Because I believe it was made public knowledge as well, this contract, when it was going out, was made public knowledge by the West Tigers, which I believe you believe that gives Mr. Pascoe a little bit of a case here to rebut a bit.
When I did my podcast initially today, there was still facts and information coming in. And from what I understood at that time, I thought Farah had received undisclosed payments outside of the salary cap. However, that is not the issue. He has not yet received any money at all from the club. So straight away, we need to ask, he hasn't received money, so where is the breach here? But there is an agreement to pay him a certain amount of money as a sort of ambassador role post-career, and that's been agreed on with him in the club. But I didn't know this initially, but it is public knowledge. So the fact that it's public knowledge, it does leave a lot of question marks there as to whether this is a fair punishment. I would say $750,000 is a little steep. I would say that's unfair, and even to deregistering him, I would say that is. I just don't see that as being a fair situation. And the West Tigers have said, we are fiercely against these claims and we intend to fight them. Now, Tigers fans are understandably very upset. Here's a comment on my Facebook page from Mark Darlington. Absolutely partial decision. I have followed the league all my life. I'm 48. This may be the tipping point. The NRL needs independent administrators, not old boys with club connections. Greenberg and Schubert have long established club roots, yet we are supposed to accept they act without bias. Pascoe has been an excellent CEO who worked tirelessly to return our club's first profit in ages. All gone now. Next season we will start at a disadvantage in cap terms, almost $2 million less than Melbourne. Yet fans are supposed to sit by and accept obvious inconsistencies. I got back to Mark and I said, you do raise a pretty good point. And a lot of people will be sitting here going, he's a Tigers fan. He's just passionate because he's a Tigers fan. But a lot of those points are fair, and especially an interesting point, which is a little off topic. Melbourne will literally start with almost $2 million more than them if you factor in third-party agreements. Yeah, well, the NRL actually released their third-party agreements the other day for each club, and Melbourne. I mean, I compared the lowest team, which is Parramatta, and the highest team, which is Melbourne, and what's that, like a $2 million difference or something? It is absolutely nuts. Yeah, it's completely unbelievable. It's really astonishing. Probably the most surprising thing for me was the Sydney Roosters only supposedly having 200K there, which I just found so hard to believe. What I'm actually going to do is put that on the screen now for everyone to see. There you go, just above. So, I mean, Broncos up there, 800,000. Storm, 1 million. And you can make the argument there, one club, one team, one club in the one location. Sorry. Jeez, I stumble on that every time. But what about the Titans? We're down below. We're down about 50K there. And we're a one. I sort of expect that. But yeah. So apparently we've got a war chest, though, ever since Conrad Hurrell decided to go to the Super League. I don't know how much that war chest is, but, well, obviously that's not a part of third-party agreements, but... Yeah. So, quick summary. Flanagan, yes, I probably believe that is fair. He knew the rules. I can see why people would say otherwise, given other suspensions that have been dealt with in the NRL. Pascoe, no, I believe that's completely unfair, and I know the Tigers are planning on fighting that, so good on them, and I hope that ends well for him. And the first thing we spoke about, Cory Norman, yes, good signing for 2020, a little bit strange for 2019, but I can see why they want to build the half combination there if Widdop is departing the club. Yeah. Just on the Justin Pascoe thing as well, if we have any West Tigers fans on the page watching this video, please, I encourage you, comment below your thoughts on this issue and what sort of Justin Pascoe you believe he did for your club. Because, I do really want to see what West Tigers fans out there think about this. Cronulla Sharks fans as well, obviously, for the Flanagan issue. And Eagles and Dragons fans, what do you think about Cory Norman? Alrighty, guys. So I think we're going to leave that one there. I'm just going to give a quick summary as well. Cory Norman's the Dragons. It's going to be good if Gareth Widdop leaves. Flanagan being deregistered, yes. I believe that's a good move. Could possibly even be a good move for his son, Kyle Flanagan, if he gets to leave the club. Yep. And then Justin Pascoe, definitely, I do believe that was a bit unfair. Okay, guys, also I just want to add, if you can see the current setup here, how we've got it, of course, I announced the NRL In My Opinion podcast coming at the beginning of 2019. I'm hoping January. However, we did find that we got a couple of little issues, some audio issues. So we did actually film this one through
Clarkey sort of set up. So I want to thank Clarkey for that one. So yeah, we've got a couple of little issues, and that's why we're trying to work them out early, and that's why I didn't say a specific date that we were going to be starting up the podcast. But yeah, this is sort of how it's going to look, if you can sort of think about that. But anyway, guys, thank you for joining into this initial reaction video. Clarkey, thank you for joining me. If you want to sign off, have anything to plug, go for it.
Beautiful. No, like I said, I've said in a couple of videos now, guys, Oliver is definitely one of the best up-and-coming Facebook pages with a lot of great and unique content, which I think separates him from a lot of the crowd. It was a pleasure to be on today, Oliver. Thanks very much for having me on, and really hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you go to both our social media pages. We're both on Instagram also, and YouTube. Subscribe, follow, because 2019 season is going to be a huge one. If it's anything like this off season, it's going to be exponential. So make sure you're following us for all the latest updates on everything NRL. Thank you for watching, guys. Have a good day.